You want the truth? Here it is, raw, unpolished and straight to your chest. Regret is the most expensive emotion you will ever feel. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't give warnings. It shows up years later when you least expect it, when you're alone in your room, when you've moved on, when you should feel fine. And yet it gnaws at you. It whispers in the back of your mind, you should have done more. You should have been better. You should have seen it coming. But let's get one thing straight. Regret isn't born out of failure. Regret is born out of power you gave away. Power you handed to someone who didn't deserve it. Power you abandoned in yourself because you were too busy chasing love instead of learning love. And if you've been rocking with me through the Avoidant X series, you already know the patterns. You've seen what silence does. You've seen what walking away does. You've seen how the avoidant, so tough, so distant, so cold, eventually crumbles under the weight of their own choices. You loved those videos. I know you did. Because they didn't just tell you about them, they showed you something about you. But let's be real. Those videos were only the beginning. Today, we're starting something bigger, something deeper, something that isn't just about your ex anymore. This is about the psychology of love and power. Read that again. Love and power. Not love without power, not power without love. Both. Balanced, aligned, untouchable. Because here's the hard truth. Without power, love makes you weak. Without love, power makes you empty. But when you master both, you become unstoppable. So let me warn you now, don't even think about skipping, scrolling, or half-watching this. Not this one, not this series. This is not background noise for when you're cooking, driving, or texting 5 people at once. No. This is a commitment. You and me. Face to face, ear to soul. For the next few minutes, this is your moment. And if you dare to stay with me to the end, I promise you'll walk away with a weapon most people will never hold in their lifetime. The ability to look regret in the eye and dismantle it before it dismantles you. Because regret, my friend, isn't just an emotion. It's a science. And once you understand it, you can predict it, prevent it, and even use it to rise. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." You know what regret is? It's the evidence that you didn't begin, that you hesitated, that you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, that you clung to someone who was already walking away. But I need you to hear me. Regret isn't the enemy. Regret is the reminder, the teacher, the mirror that forces you to ask, why did I give my power away? And that's why this series is going to rip the comfort out of you. Because the truth is, you've spent too long letting relationships define your worth. You've spent too long begging for closure instead of building clarity. Too long searching for validation instead of sharpening your vision. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, the mental habit of imagining alternate realities. If only I had said this. If only I had stayed. If only I hadn't left. That's regret. The human brain creates those false scenarios to torture you, and you fall for it every single time. But here's the hidden science. Regret doesn't mean you want the past back. Regret means you haven't fully claimed your future. Let that sink in. Regret lingers when you believe the best part of your story has already been written. And if you believe that, of course you suffer. Of course you ache. Of course you feel behind. But if you flip that belief, if you choose to believe that your best chapter hasn't even begun yet, suddenly regret loses its teeth. Suddenly regret becomes fuel instead of chains. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And isn't that what regret really is? Wasted time. Time you can't get back. Time you handed to someone who couldn't even hold it properly. But here's what they didn't tell you. You can recover power faster than you lost it. You can rebuild yourself stronger than you were before, but only if you stop running from regret and start learning from it. That's why I built this series, because you've already seen what happens when you deal with avoidance, when you master silence, when you walk away. But now, we're going deeper. This isn't just about them anymore. It's about building a psychology so unshakable that no breakup, no ghosting, no rejection, no abandonment can bend you. You want the truth? Most people never get there. Most people keep circling the same cycle of regret their whole lives. They repeat the same patterns, fall for the same people, suffer the same endings, and then they die with their music still in them, full of what-ifs and should-have-beens. Not you, not anymore. Because if you're still watching this right now, that means you're one of the few who's ready to actually do the work. Ready to face yourself without flinching, ready to tear apart every false belief that's been chained to your chest since you first thought you weren't enough. So let's make it official. Right now, before we go further, I want you to comment this mantra. I refuse to let regret own me. Type it. Declare it. Own it. Not for me, not for the algorithm, for you. Because when you write it, you shift from being passive to being powerful. You draw a line in the sand and you say, regret may visit me, but it will never rule me. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because if you think this intro is heavy, you haven't seen anything yet. The next episodes are going to break you down and rebuild you piece by piece until you are no longer at the mercy of regret, rejection, or false love. This isn't just another YouTube series. This is a rebirth. So buckle up, put your phone down, clear the distractions. It's just you and me now, because today marks the beginning of something new. Not you begging, not you waiting, not you folding, but you standing, whole, powerful, free. This is the psychology of love and power. And we're just getting started. Stay focused. Key point 1. Regret is the shadow of power you gave away. You ever notice how regret never shows up when you're winning? When you're locked in on your purpose, when you're aligned with your standards, when you're walking like a man who owns his lane, regret is silent. It can't breathe in that space. Regret only shows up when you hand your power away. Think about it. The moment you begged for attention you didn't need. The moment you stayed when you should have walked. The moment you let their silence dictate your self-worth. That's when regret plants its seed. And here's the kicker. Most people confuse regret with heartbreak. They think regret means, I still love them. Wrong. Regret means, I abandoned myself for them. Let that land. Because if you really trace it back, regret doesn't sting because they left. Regret stings because you ignored your own red flags. Because you overgave, overchased, overcompromised, and now you are left with the receipt of your own choices. That's the hidden science. Regret isn't about them, it's about you. Now let's break this down with psychology. Researchers call this self-discrepancy theory. It's the gap between the person you know you could be and the person you actually showed up as. That gap? That's where regret lives. That's the ache in your chest at 3 a.m. That's the reason you replay conversations in your head, wishing you'd acted differently. It's not about wanting them back. It's about wishing you had shown up as the stronger version of yourself. And here's the brutal truth. The longer you avoid closing that gap, the longer regret haunts you. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And that's what happens in relationships when you lose your center. You spread yourself too thin, trying to please, trying to prove, trying to secure what was never secure to begin with. And now, regret has a chokehold on you, but it doesn't have to stay that way. Because here's the power shift. Once you understand that regret is just a signal, you can rewire it. Regret is proof that you have standards, proof that you knew better, proof that somewhere inside you there's a higher self screaming, "Stop giving your power away." So instead of letting regret weaken you, you flip it. You use it as evidence that you're capable of better, that you can rewrite the next chapter with clarity, not desperation. Think about the times you regret the most in relationships. It's rarely about what they did. It's about what you allowed, what you tolerated, what you ignored. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. Why? Because if regret is about them, you're powerless. But if regret is about you, then you have control. You can change. You can set new boundaries. You can stop giving discounts on your energy. You can stop begging for love and start embodying it. Here's the stat most people don't know. Studies show that when people reflect on their lives, their biggest regrets aren't about failure. They're about not being true to themselves, not taking the risks, not setting the boundaries, not becoming who they knew they could have been. So let's get real. Are you living in alignment with who you know you could be? Or are you still chasing people who drain you, bending for validation, performing for attention? Because if you are, regret is already on its way. It doesn't come tomorrow. It doesn't come next week. It shows up years later when you realize you wasted time you'll never get back. But here's the shift. Regret only owns you if you stay asleep. The moment you decide, no more, I'm reclaiming my power, regret loses its grip. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the cure. Stop focusing on them. Start focusing on how you gave yourself away, and cut that habit at the root. Because let me tell you, regret is not your destiny. Regret is your warning shot, and the sooner you answer it, the sooner you stop being haunted and start being forged. So if you take nothing else from this first point, take this. Regret is the shadow of power you abandoned, and the only way to kill that shadow is to reclaim the power. Walk like the man who doesn't beg. Stand like the man who doesn't fold. Decide like the man who doesn't regret. Because the truth is, regret can't touch the man who refuses to give his power away in the first place. Key point 2. Regret hits hardest in the silence you tried to avoid. You know when regret feels the loudest. It's not when you're arguing. It's not when you're begging for another chance. It's not even when you're blocked or ghosted. Regret screams the loudest in the silence. That silence you tried so hard to avoid, the nights you filled with scrolling, swiping, distracting yourself with rebounds, texting 5 people you don't even care about. That silence doesn't go away. It waits. And when it catches you hard. Because here's the truth. People don't regret the breakup in the middle of chaos. They regret it when the noise dies down, when the fake distractions lose their taste, when they realize the attention they chased can't match the connection they lost. And you've seen this play out. You've lived it. Think back to your avoidant ex. At first, silence was their comfort. They craved it. They needed it. They told themselves, "Finally, I'm free." But then time passed. The silence that once felt like peace turned into emptiness, and suddenly all the things they thought they wanted weren't enough. That's when regret shows up. Here's the hidden science. Silence exposes truth. Psychologists call it stimulus withdrawal. When constant stimulation is removed, texts, calls, attention, chaos, the brain recalibrates. At first it feels good, relief, but then the void sets in. And in that void, regret grows. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." And that's what silence reveals. It shows you the truth about your cravings. Do you crave them? Or do you crave the power you abandoned while chasing them? See, here's the uncomfortable part. Silence isn't just their mirror, it's yours too. That's why most people hate it. Because when the phone doesn't buzz, when no one's checking in, when there's nothing to distract you, you're forced to face yourself. And if you don't like what you see, regret sinks its claws in deeper. That's why people rush into rebounds. That's why they keep their phone glued to their hand. That's why they scroll endlessly, searching for dopamine hits that never last. They're trying to outrun silence, but you can't outrun it. You either face it or it breaks you, and that's why silence is your greatest weapon if you use it right. Because while others run from silence, you can embrace it. While others drown in regret, you can turn silence into growth. You can use it to sharpen your discipline, build your body, rebuild your purpose, learn your craft. Every second of silence that breaks them can build you. Here's a stat. Studies show that people who can sit with silence, even just 10 minutes a day, report higher emotional resilience, lower stress, and more clarity in decision-making. Why? Because silence forces self-awareness, and self-awareness kills regret at the root. Think about it. If you can sit with silence now, regret won't have ammo later, because you'll know you didn't beg, you didn't fold, you didn't chase someone who already left. You stayed still, stayed strong, stayed aligned. That kills regret before it's born. But if you run from silence, if you chase distraction after distraction, you're not just delaying regret, you're multiplying it. Because eventually, silence finds you. And when it does, it drags every mistake you tried to bury right back to the surface. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Silence isn't the enemy. Your fear of it is. So here's the shift. Stop fearing silence. Start mastering it. Because the people who can sit alone in their own presence, without needing validation, without chasing noise, without begging for attention, those are the people who don't drown in regret later. Your ex? They'll regret when silence hits them months from now. But you? You can use silence to make regret powerless. And that's the difference between people who collapse and people who rise. So don't just hear this. Live it. The next time silence hits you, don't run. Don't numb it. Don't fill it with pointless distractions. Lean into it, feel it, and then build in it. Because silence is where the weak crumble, but it's also where the strong are born. Key point 3. Regret is the bill you pay for ignoring red flags. Let's not sugarcoat this. Every single regret you've carried in a relationship didn't start at the breakup. It didn't even start when things got bad. It started the moment you ignored that first red flag. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The way they pulled back when you got close. The lie they told that you excused. The boundary they broke that you let slide because you didn't want to make it a big deal. That sinking feeling in your gut you drowned out with hope, that's when regret was born. Not at the end, at the beginning. Because here's the truth. Breakups don't create regret. Your silence in the face of truth creates regret. And let's be real. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I knew it. I should have trusted my gut. I saw this coming." That's not hindsight. That's ignored foresight. That's the price of self-betrayal. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. That's when your mind and your reality are at war. You saw the truth, but you convinced yourself to believe the lie. You told yourself they'd change. You told yourself it was just stress. You told yourself it wasn't that deep. And in doing so, you dug your own grave of regret. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a man who notices the foundation of his house is cracked. He knows it. He sees it. But instead of fixing it, he paints over it. He brings guests over, pours drinks, acts like everything's fine, until one day the house collapses, and now he's standing in rubble saying, "I should have done something." That's what relationships become when you ignore red flags. The collapse isn't sudden, it's scheduled. Regret is simply the overdue bill. And you've got to hear this. Ignoring red flags is not kindness. It's cowardice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That applies to love too. If it's not aligned, don't excuse it. If it's not honest, don't accept it. If it's not healthy, don't justify it. Because every time you do, you're not loving them. You're abandoning yourself. And here's the thing. Regret is heavier when you knew better. That's why it burns so deep. If it blindsided you, maybe you could forgive yourself quicker. But when you saw the red flag and walked past it anyway, that regret can haunt you for years, unless you face it. Now, here's the hidden science. Studies show that people regret inaction more than action, meaning what haunts you most isn't what you did, it's what you didn't do. You didn't speak up, you didn't set the boundary, you didn't walk away when the red flag waved in your face. That silence is what echoes. So, how do you kill that regret? You stop betraying yourself. Next time you see a red flag, don't sweep it under the rug. Don't paint over it. Don't tell yourself stories to keep the fantasy alive. Call it out. Stand on it. If they can't meet the standard, walk away before you collapse under regret again, because the man who ignores red flags is digging his own grave. But the man who honors them builds his own fortress. And let's not forget, your ex isn't free from this truth either. They'll regret ignoring the signs too, the signs that you were loyal, that you were consistent, that you were valuable. They ignored that. They thought they could replace that. And one day they'll look back at the flags they dismissed, and it'll hit them like a brick wall. But here's the difference. Their regret is about losing you. Your regret is about losing yourself. And only one of those regrets can be completely destroyed, yours, because you can choose right now to never ignore yourself again. So let me challenge you. What red flags are you overlooking right now? Who are you excusing? What behaviors are you justifying? If you don't stop, regret will send you the bill, and it always collects. But if you do stop, if you choose to honor your gut, respect your standards, protect your peace, regret loses its grip. Because the strongest man isn't the one who never sees red flags. It's the one who never ignores them, turning regret into power. Let's get brutally honest one last time. Regret is inevitable. You can't live a full life and not feel it at least once. But the difference between the broken and the unbreakable is this. The broken stay chained to regret. The unbreakable turn regret into fire. And I need you to really let that sink in, because if you've watched all the way to this point, it means you're ready to stop living as the broken and start living as the unbreakable. Think about what we've uncovered together in this video. Regret isn't random. It's the shadow of power you gave away. It's the silence you ran from. It's the red flags you ignored. And if you keep living like that, regret will keep running your life. It will creep into your nights. It will poison your mornings. It will whisper in your ear every time you try to move forward. Remember what you lost. Remember how you failed. Remember how you betrayed yourself. But here's the shift. You don't have to keep carrying regret like it's your cross to bear. Regret can become your compass. Because every time regret reminds you of where you abandoned yourself, it's also showing you exactly where you need to rebuild. Every time regret shows you a red flag you ignored, it's pointing you to the standard you should have set. Every time regret haunts you in silence, it's proving how much you need to master stillness. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's regret. It's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. And listen, your ex, your past, your mistakes, they're not your identity. They're just your training ground, the battlefield that forged you, the classroom that taught you what textbooks never could. You think it's over? It's not. You're just now becoming dangerous. Because once you learned to turn regret into wisdom, into discipline, into vision, suddenly you're untouchable. Imagine this for a second. You no longer text in desperation. You no longer fold when silence stretches too long. You no longer excuse lies, half-love, or half-effort. You no longer ignore the gut punch of red flags. Instead, you move with standards so high, most people can't even reach the table you sit at. You walk with energy so grounded, regret can't even touch you. You embody love and power at the same time, so you no longer chase it, you attract it. That's where this new series, The Psychology of Love and Power, is taking you. The Avoidant X series. That was the wake-up call. That was us exposing their patterns. And I know you love those videos. You saw the truth for the first time without sugarcoating. You learned why silence worked. You learned why avoidants collapse under their own choices. And I thank you for being there, for watching, for investing in yourself through those episodes. But this is the upgrade. This is you becoming so unbreakable, so sharp, so aligned, that regret no longer defines you. It serves you. And I'm not asking for your half attention. I'm not asking for you to treat this like background noise. If you're here because you want more. You're here because you know you've wasted enough time. And I promise you, if you commit to this series, if you stop skipping, stop scrolling, and lock in with me all the way through, you will never look at regret the same way again. Because by the end of this series, you won't just understand regret. You'll have weaponized it. Now, before we wrap this up, I want you to claim it. Not tomorrow. Not later. Right now, type this in the comments. I refuse to let regret own me. Say it. Write it. Declare it. Not to impress me, but to anchor yourself. To tell the world and yourself that regret may knock on your door, but it will never live in your house again. And while you're at it, make sure you're subscribed. Turn on notifications, because trust me, what's coming next in this series will shake you to your core. If you thought the Avoidant X series was powerful, you haven't seen anything yet. This is your season to rise. This is your season to rebuild. This is your season to choose power over regret. And when you look back months from now, you won't say, "I wish I had started sooner." You'll say, "That was the moment everything changed." So let's end this the way we began, with confrontation. You've carried regret long enough. You've replayed the mistakes long enough. You've given your power away long enough. Now you rise. This is the psychology of love and power. And this is only the beginning.